Brother Nantambu, who's Brian George. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear everybody fine.
Cool. Okay, all right, I'm gonna share my screen real quick, do the quick intro, and then I'll turn this thing over to Brother Craig, and he will lay this thing out for us. So give me a quick second to share my screen. You guys let me know when you can see the screen, and I will knock this intro out.
And see it.
Cool.
Yeah,
excellent. All right, the Black Gold Nation presents Cinematic Connections for Revolutionary Change, an engaging, enlightening, and entertaining assessment of movies as it relates to the forward progress of Black people in America, Africa, and the diaspora. What is the Black Gold Nation movement? The Black Gold Nation movement is an international organization that seeks to liberate and save Black people by establishing our own towns/cities, whereby we control the environment to make our people bigger, better, and stronger. It is our contention that when we allow other people to control our environment or any aspect of that environment, we lose. So with that understanding, we seek to control not just the environment, but everything within it that touches and or affects the Black mind, body, spirit, and psyche. Why we came to be, based on the understandings, teachings, practices, and strategies of past and current organizations that the Black Gold Nation movement's leadership has lived, studied, and are taught, and the need to continue doing. We build upon the successes, minus some mistakes, to provide our people solutions that work now to implement a 100-year plan to build power. We understand that every leader that's come before us, every movement that's come before us, they were all trying to do a righteous thing, but none of them completed that righteous work, which means the work is yet to be done, completed. So that means that we have to do it. Everything that our former leaders were trying to do, the vast majority of it still has to be done. And since we are still here, it is on us to do that. And so in this movement, we want to not only take up the mantle, run our leg of the race as best we can, but we want to attach a 100-year plan onto what we're doing so that we can give it to our children, so that they can attach their 100-year plan onto it, so that as a people, we will always be 100 years out and 100 years ahead of the competition as we seek to elevate this game from the level of marbles that most of our people are playing to the level of chess like our oppressors are playing. So with that, that is a brief overview of the Black Gold Nation movement. I'll turn this thing over to Brother Craig Lee, who's going to talk about this documentary. It's on you, Brother Craig.
All right. Good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today we are discussing a very, very important documentary as the film discussion of the week. And I selected this particular film primarily because this week in Texas and Louisiana, certain parts of Louisiana, and now, you know, and we're going to talk about this today, the hype over Juneteenth. But I selected the film based on that because the film gets into the discussion of the real America after the 13th Amendment. So we're going to get into all of those particular things, but I'd like to start off by getting an assessment from everybody of their perspective of the film. So just in a few words, give me your take on what you thought about the documentary from everybody.
I guess I'll start. Be honest with you, I watched it 3 times last night, but I was so interrupted through all 3.
Wow.
Exactly. Peonage is what I got out of it, and the debt, slavery, and debt servitude that was put in place to continue slavery. That's what I've got out of all of the names. I tried to remember Comer. I'm lost. So I'm intrigued to hear what your take on this, because like I said, I was interrupted so badly last night.
Yeah, cool.
I'll leave it at that.
Next.
I'll go next. I would say nothing was surprising. It did make me a little angry, not a little, but you know, it just, like you said, you kind of gotta take it as it comes, as far as, you know, your emotions that you're dealing with it. You're not surprised. In the back of your mind, you knew all this was going on. And one thing that struck me was when the author was saying, you know, when the other guy was asking him for the letter, you know, how he kind of procrastinated because he just didn't want to deal with it. And, you know, watching the documentary, I was like, you know, I have a lot of Facebook friends and, you know, of all, you know, walks of life, and see the little crap that they have posted. And part of me is like, you know, I should copy this link and send this to them and this, that, and the other. But then I'm like, you know, I don't want to waste my time, because just like the author, he, you know, in the back of my mind, I think they know, but they don't want to deal with it.
Exactly.
They don't want to acknowledge it.
Right.
You know, out of sight, out of mind, get over it type of deal. So, you know, that was my thing.
Powerful. I would still suggest, Jatik, to send it anyway. I still would suggest to do it. But,
well, the one in particular I'm thinking about is having a hissy fit because her precious statues are being taken down, and she feels like the America that she grew up with is no longer, and she doesn't recognize this America, and we're
good.
right. And you know, it's my mom's friend, you know, and I wanna dig into her so bad sometimes, and then I'm just like, you know. And the funny thing is, you know, nothing against her, but she's a white lesbian, used to be in the military, Trump supporter. And I'm like, you know, it's like you don't even know enough to know. You know what I'm saying? You're fighting your own battles, but, you know, you're just so blinded by, you know, this indoctrination. You know,
how's she your mom? How's she your mom's friend? So-called friend?
They were in like a dance troupe type of deal, and we went on like a vacation retreat down to South America, you know, and I could tell just from conversation, you know, I knew where she was coming from. She does a lot of woodworking. That's how her and I kind of, you know, I'm not gonna say hooked up, but that's the thing we have in common. You know, I do woodworking and stuff on the side, so, you know, I'm Facebook friends with a lot of people that really, if they didn't know me and they saw me on the street, they would probably spit in my face. And I'm just going to be truthful with you. But, you know, as part of these things, like we've discussed before, I take the information that I can from people. You know what I'm saying? If I can learn something from you, you know, you're helping me out and don't even realize it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, next.
I guess I took from it, I mean, the title couldn't be more befitting the documentary. You know, it was quite enlightening. You know, I could appreciate, you know, with it being Juneteenth and celebrating the abolishment of slavery, it just put us out there in a place where we were ill-equipped to navigate, and then just how we were handled or managed, you know, in the years to follow. It's just devastating. It's just devastating how much worse we were treated. Like, it made slavery look like a cakewalk.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. My assessment or takeaway was, you know, profound sadness at what has been done to our people, the level of evil that our people have had to endure. And when they were talking about the peonage, the black codes, the laws that they came up with, you know, looking a white person in the eye, spitting on the ground. My grandfather, who was born in 1899, and he passed in, I think, in the late 80s. I remember him doing work for a white man, but I never understood why he never looked that white man in the eye. Never. Yeah. Always had his head down. And I never understood that, because for one, I wasn't raised that way. And two, I just didn't know. But he was born in South Carolina in 1899. So I can only imagine, man, what he had gone through, and the level of strength our people had to have to make it through. You know, and despite what we were up against, we still built shit.
Exactly.
We still took care of business, man. And now with all of this opportunity and quote unquote freedom that we have right now to do, and we don't do.
Exactly.
You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. So it was heavy, man. It really was.
Yeah.
I had to stop watching a few times because it was pissing me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's real. Next. Do we have anybody else?
Yes. I'm gonna say, first of all, I'm gonna apologize to the group. I did not watch the documentary, but I will say this: that was my fault because I didn't check the site to check the documentary. But I will say that in terms of my experience with other people that have just spoken about being angry and upset about certain things that happened, I can even remember my mother telling me that when my grandfather died in 1993, the police department and the sheriff's department in the town in Crowley in Louisiana was looking for him after he got buried because previously he had gotten to an altercation and killed the white guy. And my mother, she had never talked about that a whole lot, but she talked about it more as I became more of an adult. And she was just telling me all of the things that my grandparents went through in terms of dealing with white people in their town and in growing up. And when my grandmother was a younger lady, two of the kids that were twins were killed in a fire that the Ku Klux Klan had burnt their house down and killed two of the twin babies that were in the house. So, that pain, all those experiences, they overlap because when you go from the Emancipation Proclamation up until now, and with people celebrating, Juneteenth, however way they're going to celebrate it, you still, you're touched because all of the things that affected them still affect you too. Even until this day, all of the things that are happening, all of the protests, all of that is internalized pressure that Black people have been under the foot of white folks for so long. And we're trying to get out of it by, doing this, what we're doing now. And, it's going to continue because that's the fight that we have to fight. And, it's never going to end. And I'm happy that it's never going to end in the sense that we have to be constantly reminded about what we're going through and what we will continue to go through until we throw off all the shackles of bondage that have, put us in this position in the first place.
Exactly. Next. Do we have anybody else? Okay. Brian, definitely today or tomorrow, watch it. I'm going to give you my number, and I want to talk to you about it independent. You're going to learn a lot today about it before you watch it, but this is one of the most powerful documentaries that exists. Douglas Blackman, the way that I got turned on in this film about probably been about 10 years ago now. My business partner and soul brother for life, Brother Clinton Walden, he is from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and he was living in Shreveport, Monroe, Louisiana at one point. And he and I met in 1996. And so we've just done things together and decided to be business partners years ago. But he relocated back to Atlantic City about 10 years back. And he was telling me about this book and Slavery by Another Name. And he said the New Jersey some organization there that's considers themselves to be about human relations. They commissioned Douglas Blackman. They paid him after reading the book to do the documentary. And so that's what that whole thing is about. That's why it's so well put together. It was sponsored by this group up in New Jersey. And so he sent the documentary to me, and that's how I got turned on to it. And then I bought the book. And I mean, it's cold-blooded, man. I mean, so, and as you learn in the documentary, he's from Mississippi. And we're going to get into a little bit of that because he made a very important deal. The intro, the first few minutes of the film, I mean, again, so much happens within the first minute to 2 minutes of any film, documentary, fictional drama, you know, whatever. First 2 minutes of any film is profound, and it's the same here. They have some awesome contributors, historians who contributed to this documentary. And, you know, the first thing I started thinking about is of all of the Negroes who have money, Spike Lee, Oprah Winfrey, all these people, Bill Cosby, there's so many films that they could make, and they don't. And it's sad that a white boy, you know, makes a film that gets into this subject matter is the core of America, you know. I mean, because although it talks about the period after so-called chattel slavery, and we're about to discuss that in terms of the illusion of the Emancipation Proclamation, what it was and what it wasn't. This film gets into the core of the economic system that makes America what it is, which is full of shit, you know, because this is a full of shit country, and probably most countries are full of shit countries that placate and lie and bullshit and deceive and con and you know, create false narratives. But this country, they do it better than any goddamn body else, man. They do it better than anybody else in the world. So the intro in and of itself is powerful. So definitely go back, focus on those first couple of minutes. Going into the next component, the first question that I want to ask, if you can remember, who is the first documentary speaker? Who is the first speaker after the historians in the first couple of minutes? And this story relates, her story relates to one of the principal entities who is focused on in the film. Yeah, I remember, she's a light-skinned female.
Her name was Kinsey, huh?
Nah, that wasn't her name.
Was she the granddaughter?
Yeah, she announced herself as the daughter. She had to be the granddaughter.
Oh, her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she announced herself as the daughter, but I think she misspoke. Right. But yeah, she was the granddaughter. Her name is Sharon Malone. Mm-hmm. Sharon Malone, and she was the light-skinned female, and her family was from Wilcox, Alabama. And she said her father, but she had to mean her grandfather, was born in 1893. And I mean, if that was her dad, I tell you, he was a hell of a pillow shaker, goddamn. I mean, he was still doing some R. Kelly 12 play action way down the road. He was born in 1893, still telling his business, you know what I'm saying?
They might have raised her. I used to call my grandparents mom and dad. They might have raised her.
Yeah, exactly. And and you're absolutely correct, Jatika. It probably was. She probably didn't make that clarification. It is made at the end of the film, though. But she said her grandfather, never talked about his upbringing. That is very, very important as to why so many of our people today, these young people, are fucked up. Okay. She said she never knew why. She said knew very little about the generations beyond her parents. I want you to think about that. So we're talking about oral history is completely obliterated in not only this case, but in most cases, because most people, when they move to California, like the Great Migration for people from Louisiana and Texas, all of this followed the transportation routes. So since Highway 80 was our major transportation route, and it rode east to west, most of our ancestors traveled to California between Louisiana and Texas. If you were in Mississippi, most people went up north to Chicago. If you were in Alabama, Georgia, most people started going to DC, New York area, you know, so that basically happened. So when you got to these urban centers, hey man, I mean, the disconnect was established, not only from a physical standpoint, because you were so many miles away, but from an oral history standpoint, because a lot of the horrors that existed after slavery, oh my goodness, people didn't want to talk about that shit.
Right.
Do any of you have connections, or did you have connections to your grandparents or great-grandparents where they discussed any of these stories?
Nope.
Damn.
Not in detail. You know, I guess like many of us, my grandparents went to a segregated school, so you know, my grandmother would tell me a little bit about that. But as far as, you know, my granddad's side, I pretty much basically had to question him, like, you know, like, cause he, you know, coming to find out my great dad, you know, wasn't his real dad, you know, and I had no idea, you know, till I started questioning him.
Yeah.
You know, so he didn't offer it. I'll just put it that way.
I'm glad you brought that point there up, Jatik. Part of our fucked upness in the 21st century is directly attributed to what you just got through saying. There is our people really have no clue.
Yeah.
We're not going to even talk about understanding and comprehension. They have no clue because they have no oral accounts or written accounts of the true horrors of chattel slavery. Mm-hmm. And then the subsequent horrors that came about during the time period of this film from 1865 all the way up until the 1950s. One of the most devastating things, and I had to find this out, Jatik, in 1996. I found out that who I believed to be my grandfather on my mom's side was not my grandfather. And I found out in such a crazy way because my mother had asked me to talk to my first cousin about not marrying this female, and his mother didn't want him to marry the female, and I was designated to talk to her. And my cousin said, and I quote, I don't know why your mom is in my business anyway. Daddy being ain't even her daddy.
Well,
look, to my cousin is about 4 or 5 years younger than me. So that is so matter of factly, like I was supposed to know. And I was like, I had to focus on what I was there for.
What'd you say?
and process what this Negro had just said. And I was like, did this Negro just say that Daddy Ben was not my granddaddy? So the next year, my grandmother and I really weren't talking, my mom's mom. And so I asked my mom, I told her what Lamar said. And she said, he's right. And I said, huh? I said, you never told me. I said, oh, I thought you knew. I said, Mama, you know damn well I did not know.
I'ma know.
that Daddy Ben was not my grandfather. I said, who was your dad? So she didn't want to say. So I called up my grandmother's sister, Aunt Ethel. And I said, Aunt Ethel, who is my grandfather? And she said, Craig, I forgot his name. She said, but your great-grandfather was old man Winston Choice. She said, boy, you a choice. And she said, you come from some great people. I had no idea about this now. This is 1997. And there's a concept that I've created called cultural transmission or cultural transfer. Because you are not just you.
Right.
You are a sum total of billions of people inside of you right now. Billions of people exist inside of you. And I'm gonna send this to you guys today in relationship to this film. I'll send it to Brother Tamani. But I wanna ask you guys in relationship to what I'm talking about, if you had to start at your birth, at your birthday, and we go back 10 generations with your parents being the first generation, and we go back 10 generations, generation is basically 20 years. So we go back 200 years. How many people, just in general, you don't have to give me the exact number, but how many people in approximately do you think had to come together going back 10 generations to bring you into physical existence on your birthday?
I would have to honestly say I wouldn't know. I would have to give that a lot of thought, and I can't do that in probably about 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
Just an approximate. It's not just. I ain't gonna give you an F.
That's hard. That's hard. That would be an infinite amount of interactions.
Exactly. and that's why I asked the question, because most people are never gonna think about this. But I'm gonna send it to you. And if you go back 10 generations, starting with your parents, and of course, we're dealing with binary math, so it's gonna be multiplied by 2 every generation. You go back 10 generations, and you're going to find that it took 2,046 people to bring you into existence. And you'll be at your 8th great-grandparent. Now, I need not ask you all the following question because I already know the answer, because you all, just like me, don't know 99%, and some of you probably don't know 99.9% of those individuals. I want you to think about this now. And when you juxtapose that reality with this film and all of the horrors that our ancestors went through, and when these people say this shit happened a long time ago, the embodiment of all of those people are inside of you, just going back 200 years. I want you to hear me now. Now, if you go back 10 more decades, 20 decades from your birth, and when I say this, I'm talking about, I was born November 17, 1967. So 200 years removed would be what? 200 from 1967, 1767. Okay? So it took 2,046 people to bring me into existence. An equal amount on my maternal side, 1,023, and an equal amount on my paternal side, 1,023. How do you know that to be fact? Because in order to create any person, you got to have what?
2 people?
At least two people.
You gotta have two guys. That's irrefutable, goddammit.
Right.
You gotta have two goddamn people.
Right.
A female and a male. I don't give a damn what these white folks are saying in the 21st century, being born in a goddamn incubation chamber. You gotta have two individuals, male and female, to bring you into existence. So the same math that exists for me exists for all of you. Now, if you go back just 200 more years, for me, 1567, y'all really don't want to know the number of how many people it took to bring me into existence on November 17, 1967. But I'm gonna give you the deal. But it was over 2 million people. Mm. Over 2 million people had to come together to bring you into existence. Just you. And of course, now we run into a complication. A lot of those people were related. Mm. Ooh.
Taboo.
Ooh. Well, why were they related?
That's true too.
Why were they related, Craig? Because during slavery, goddammit, one of the most horrific things that went down, and I researched this in some of my genealogy, my great-grandfather on my mom's maternal side, Salem Johnson, his family of dynamic, handsome Black brothers, guess what their job was during slavery? Everybody had different jobs. Breeding, goddammit. Their job was to fuck.
What?
That's their job. Every goddamn day. To fuck. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. How many hundreds of children did they bring into this world? And that was their job. Mm-hmm. Are you all following me?
Yes, I'm following you.
So is that why we have some men that's all they do is fucking bring children into the world?
Exactly.
That's where they come from.
Exactly.
That's where it originated.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you combine that with no spirituality, no culture, and this is your job every day. Because and you all can look this term up. Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about it in her book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Right.
But within this dynamic, you have genetics and you have what? Epigenetics. Epigenetics is the mental and the intrinsic things that our ancestors went through that's passed on. Genetics is the physiological attributes that's passed on from one generation to another. And the same goes for these crackers. It is in them. Ain't no shit that has to be taught to their goddamn ass. It's in them to be who they are. And that's why, Jatik, I was wanting to know how the hell could that cracker be your mama friend? But I know how. Because when it comes to this illusion of friendship, we ain't talking about no real subjects when we talk about somebody as our friend. Because if you now talk about politics, religion, socioeconomics, now a person is going to tell you where they at. But we don't want to get into that. So now we set up these illusions of friendships and association based on bullshit. Based on bullshit.
And you're absolutely right. So I will correct my thoughts. And that's why I said Facebook friends. Because,
exactly.
And when Tamani was like, I should pass her on the video, I don't waste my time on people like that.
Yeah.
And I don't get mad, like we said in the previous things, I don't get mad at a duck for quacking.
Exactly.
I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Exactly.
I appreciate that I can recognize you and put you in that box. And like I said, I get what I need from you. And, so I use that term. That's why I went back and said Facebook friend. And
exactly.
I say association. You're absolutely correct.
Exactly. But for your mom probably does consider her to be a friend.
I will say it's almost the same situation because they're in a dance group, you know, and that's kind of like its own little community. So I'll use that term loosely also, because just like any other community, just like the military, or just like, you know, they have to learn dances together, you know, they have to communicate and kind of deal with each other. So yeah. I'll say that's its own little separate community and is treated as such also. So again, I use the term friend loosely with this particular individual.
Yeah. So we'll tell your mom I want to hear her call her an associate, a dance.
I was just thinking that.
And a goddamn associate. Because the only friend the only white person that should be a friend to an African descendant in America, he or she would have to be in the spirit of John Brown.
Right. A proven spirit of John Brown.
Proven. Anybody else would need to be your associate. And that's very important so we can understand that. All right, so Sharon Malone, she asked some very pertinent questions. She said, why don't I know the stories of these people? She said, and she said she was driven to find out. She said, we are innately, talking about African Americans, she said, we are innately wired to want to know.
Right.
She said, we have no understanding of what, oh, this was powerful. She says, we have no understanding of what we have endured, nor what we have survived. That was powerful. What we have endured or survived. Now, after they show her, and I'm so thankful that Douglas Blackman featured this, especially since yesterday was Juneteenth. Juneteenth is actually a holiday for African descendants in America from Texas and certain parts of South Louisiana who found out late that they had been partially free. And this was brought out in this. The problem with Juneteenth is the partial freedom that is attributed, which they call actual freedom, goes back to a hustle called the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, how many of you know what the Emancipation Proclamation was and was not?
Well, it's been touted, promoted as the document that freed the slaves. But if we know what the 13th Amendment actually entailed as it relates to verbiage, we know, like you just said, it wasn't full freedom. So it was, like you just said, it was the illusion of freedom based on maybe us not fully understanding what the 13th Amendment was actually stating.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, sister.
I was just going to say, I mean, the proclamation was basically an announcement. It was a bold statement made by Abraham Lincoln, but it really didn't hold much weight in terms of freeing anybody.
Exactly. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was taught that it meant free from your hand, but not from your control. So it was kind of like a double talk. And it really, like the sister said, Antimony said, it's a proclamation, but it's a proclamation that don't have no real validation.
Okay. Anybody else?
So an analogy would be Trump on Twitter. You know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, pretty much modern day
Yeah, but in school, you know, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation. All was well after that, but the Southerners were angry because it was more of an economic issue, and you know, to split the North because, you know, then we know the rest of what they put in the history books.
Okay. Anybody else? Brother John?
What I was going to say was they freed the slaves, but they were no longer slaves if they continued to work for this person. He became an employer and they became his employees. That's how I've heard it, you know, explained in the past.
All right. So what's your, although it's been explained that way, what's your take on it?
It became peonage, like we were just talking earlier. You know, they became paid slaves, and you know, a few years later, they a resurrection or Reconstruction Rebellion to change the narrative of the proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation statement.
Okay. All right. So let me give you all some gangster shit. First and foremost, I'm going to be sending you guys several things. And several of the things I'm going to send you some video of one of the great, one of our phenomenal researchers in world history, Lerone Bennett Jr., who wrote 2 profound books, Before the Mayflower and Forced into Slavery. And he goes in the paint on a punk ass Abraham Lincoln because Abraham Lincoln ain't do shit, and he was a Negro. You'll find this out in J.A. Rogers' book, The 5 Negro Presidents. He was a Negro, but he was a sellout Uncle Tom, punk ass Negro. That's why he's put on the penny. You got to understand the symbolism of all of this. The crackers knew he was part Negro. So he didn't do anything. First, you need to know what a proclamation is. And Tara correctly pointed out, and because we had to go through this week, so she kind of had the benefit of learning this week. But a proclamation is nothing but an announcement. That's all it is. And they do proclamations every goddamn day. As a matter of fact, I think Tamani got goddamn Tamani Day in Houston. Don't mean a goddamn thing. But if
I got a day too.
Okay. Literally.
Copycat.
I know. My uncle made sure I had me a day.
Watch out.
Literally, I get nauseated when I'm in city council meeting and all of the work that I've done. I don't give a goddamn about being recognized by the system with no damn day. Now, even with the icons that I seek to brand, I don't get tripped out. But I do feel we need to recognize some of these folks. But that's all a proclamation is. It's an announcement, okay? It does not carry any legislative power. So that's the first thing we got to understand. Secondly, everybody on this call needs to read the Emancipation Proclamation, because not only was it an announcement, within the goddamn announcement, it tells you that the illusion of freedom that it is purported to have carried the weight of, it tells you that it does not free even the illusion of freedom. It does not free all of our ancestors. It only purported to free them in the southern states that seceded from the goddamn Union. Let me repeat. It purports the purported freedom for our ancestors in the damn announcement only focuses on the goddamn states that seceded. those southern states. Guess what it allowed other states who were friends of the goddamn Union to do? Keep their goddamn so-called slaves.
Deal with us any way they want it.
No, it allowed them to keep slavery going. So think about that now. This announcement that Martin Luther King, crazy ass, put in his speeches, and everybody focuses on as this great goddamn document, never freed any of our ancestors because it was not legislatively done. And within the announcement that is focused on, it only focuses on the illusion of freedom for our ancestors in the states who seceded, not in the states that were friends of the Union. And when you get into Abraham Lincoln's backstory, his wife, her family owned goddamn slaves, which made his punk ass a goddamn slave owner because he married into the goddamn family. So we need to be very clear about this document. So Juneteenth is incorrectly celebrated because it points back to the damn Emancipation Proclamation. Now I want you to think about this now. The actual legislation that partially freed our ancestors, and let me pause right now. In 2005, there was a epic disaster that occurred in Louisiana and other states along the Gulf Coast called Hurricane Katrina. And myself and my first wife, we were impacted. As a matter of fact, she was rescued. And so everybody saw the photos, the images of majority Black people on rooftops and at the convention center. And so we were displaced. Our people were displaced. Fortunately for my wife and I, we were already bi-statal. Like you got bi-coastal, we were bi-statal, meaning she lived in New Orleans, I lived in Shreveport. So we had two residences. So she was able to come to Shreveport, but it was not until she was loaded on a bus and taken to Houston because she was hard-headed, tried to get her punk ass to come to Shreveport, but she didn't want to. And so she got caught like so many others who didn't get out. One of the terms that you heard crackers and Negroes reference to us as coming out of New Orleans was what?
Refugees.
Refugees. Y'all remember that?
Yep.
All right. You know why that term was shut down, right? People learned, educated, people from Louisiana educated they punk ass and let them know what a refugee was versus what an evacuee was, all right? So they started using the term evacuee and they started apologizing for that. Now, what does that have to do with what I'm about to tell you in this discussion? We must stop using the term that our ancestors were slaves because they were not slaves. This is why a lot of people try to disconnect from history because our ancestors were not slaves. They were enslaved, yes, but they were what, Brother Tamani? Prisoners
of war.
Of war.
Yes, sir.
They were POWs. Do you all understand that? Does this make sense?
Yeah, yes. It make a lot of sense.
All right. They were prisoners. They were captured. Whether the majority were captured on the continent, some were captured inside of the Americas. But whichever way you want to look at it, from the continent or already here, they were captured and they were prisoners of war because this was a declaration of war against our people, and they were forced into a POW situation that is called chattel slavery. But they were not slaves. We need to be very clear on that. Finally, as it relates to the 13th Amendment, you must read that clause, because it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. They brought the crackers in with that. They brought the Asians in with that, because you had this involuntary servitude going on in some instances, so-called prison labor going on. A few of them got caught up in that. But neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except that's in the Constitution now. Except for what, Brother Tamani? Except
the punishment of a crime.
The goddamn punishment of a crime. Hence, the creation of the black codes and the Christian black codes. This shit is not talked about in no damn history books, but there are history books on it. So this leads into the re-enslavement of our ancestors. What you think, these white folks were just gonna let us mosey on down the goddamn road?
All that free labor.
All that free labor that built the goddamn country. So on June 19th, 1865, General Granger of the Union Army rides his punk ass down here on the horse to Galveston, Texas. And he says, you all are free. God damn it, y'all are free. And y'all have been free since January the 1st, 2nd, 1863. So he points back to the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, let me show you all how much game this is. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated on April the 14th, 1865. The Civil War ended on April the 9th, 1865. The 13th Amendment was passed January the 31st of 1865. So here's the question. If Abraham Lincoln, or should I say, since Abraham Lincoln was still alive, why do they try to connect the freeing of our ancestors in Texas to the Emancipation Proclamation, which did nothing, versus the goddamn 13th Amendment, which at least partially gave them freedom?
Because they needed a hero.
They needed a goddamn hero. And they did not want the hero to be Congress. They wanted to be Abraham Lincoln, because Abraham Lincoln hadn't done shit for black folk. He was for slavery. So here's how they try to rewrite history, false narratives. You can go look at this shit. And when I send you all these videos on Lerone Bennett and you start to read who Lincoln really was, you're gonna be like, damn, these crackers cold.
Calculating.
They cold.
Calculating.
Cause this is how the cracker works. We got a game plan, everybody, to roll with historically black colleges and universities, but most of the HBCUs, including the one that I went to, were started by whites. Some of them have cracker names. And one of the most beautiful illustrations of how gangster crackers are to try to rewrite who they really are in history is in Mississippi, the home of Douglas Blackman, who wrote the book and did the documentary. What is that HBCU? Alcorn University, named after the former goddamn Confederate soldier and governor of the state of Mississippi, Alcorn, straight up cracker. But under his leadership, this university for our ancestors received a land grant. And it's one of the oldest land grant institutions in the country, HBCUs. But it's named after a cracker. Now, if these Negroes in Mississippi really want to show progress, what would they do?
Change the name.
And guess who you would meet resistance from the most?
Negroes.
Black
The
folks that
goddamn
went to
Negroes.
school there.
What they got to do with anything, nickel? We tough, man. We love these white folks. We love them. Negroes love white folks, man. Make no mistake about that. So I want you all to do some research on that 13th Amendment, except as punishable by a crime. So motherfucker, we gonna create, well, in order to create a crime, commit a crime, you gotta first break a what?
Law.
Like a law.
So now we gotta make laws so that your ass can break them.
Don't you spill on that ground. 5 years in prison. 5 years. Dastardly deeds.
And one of the best movies you can see about that, although it's structured as a comedy, is the goddamn movie Life.
That's right.
That's what the goddamn movie is about. The movie Life is about the convict leasing program, and it's about the black codes. Now, when you go back and read that shit now, or watch the movie, you'll see it with a different lens.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in the movie, and the brother who was co-star of the movie, Barry Henley, he came to Shreveport years ago, and I took him on a tour of Shreveport. And I'd say, man, when I met him, I said, man, I was just thinking about your ass today, how funny that line is in the movie Life when, you know, everybody would get letters and none of them could read, basically. So when Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence get in the, put in prison, they're sitting around under a tree and it's like, hey, can you read this letter for me? And so Eddie Murphy started reading the letter. He said, this from your cousin, such and such. She wanted to let you know that your mama died, your daddy died, your motherfucking cousin died, your dog died, and it says here, your one cousin, she lived. Oh no, she said she died too. and he said, but they want you to do well. And so Eddie Murphy said, does anybody want me to read another letter?
No one, no bad news.
But what they were showing just in that funny moment, the illiteracy of our people.
Yeah.
Because guess what was illegal during slavery?
Reading.
Learn how to read.
Reading and writing. This is a cold-blooded game these crackers done put together, man.
Yes, sir.
So you all definitely research that because now what is going on throughout the country? Everybody want to do it. We want Juneteenth. We want Juneteenth. Now, guess why they doing it? Let me see if y'all can get this shit. Why are they talking now all this bullshit about Juneteenth? And now we want to make this to a federal holiday. Oh, this is great. Why are they doing it? Jatique, why are they doing this?
I mean, off the top of my head, I would say to calm the natives.
Okay, calm the natives. All right, that's cool. Is there any other reason? Because you're right.
To make it seem like they care. To make it seem like they are doing something about what's been done to us over the years. We're not that bad, black people. We're going to give you this federal holiday, as if a holiday changed any damn thing.
Well,
Okay.
and I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna jump ahead.
Too late.
Since we're attaching federal holiday to it, I assume it's some kind of economic impact somewhere along the way, because it's always a money issue. So you know, when things were good, people used to get days off for federal holidays and get paid for it. So that money would have to come somewhere. So I would think,
so,
you know,
so
there's
now
a
let's
stash of money
elevate.
somewhere.
So you're in the ballpark now when you mention the word economic. So now let's elevate that. You went in the wrong direction, but you're on the right page. Economic. So now let's connect the dots. Let's connect the dots. You went slightly off, even though holidays were used as a tactical maneuver to make Negroes accept chattel slavery as they were maneuvering through that shit. But you're on the page, economics. So why is now the federal government considering goddamn, and as a matter of fact, this is legislation being sponsored by punk ass Kamala Harris, and punk ass Cory Booker.
Oh, I know the answer. I think I know the answer.
Okay, let me hear it.
I'm assuming because black people spend money on holidays.
Well, that's kind of sort of in the ballpark, but you still deviating. What's the answer, John? What's the answer, Brian?
I mean, everybody spends money on holidays, right?
True, but there's another answer. Y'all missing it. They want Juneteenth to be a goddamn federal holiday. And the answer relates to economics.
I don't know.
Well, it kind of, with it being a national holiday, that kind of galvanizes us to continue to give money into the system because it's a national holiday. It's an accepted holiday. And we're going to spend our money and all is going to be well and good again.
Well, that's what Tamani and Jatik said and Tyra. Y'all missing stuff. It's obvious. Let me go on and tell you. Let me tell you how cold-blooded. This how cold-blooded. This how cold-blooded. This how cold-blooded the cracker is, and y'all done missed the shit. God damn, y'all missed it. Y'all were there. Y'all missed it. They are so hype about doing the federal holiday because it's a smoke and mirror game to get you to stop focusing on what? Reparations. Reparations. Remember, the cracker female started out talking about reparations. You got ADOS talking about reparations. You still got the older groups talking about reparations. You got goddamn Bob Johnson, formerly of BET, talking about everybody reparations. We got it. Cory Booker and motherfucking Kamala Harris didn't want to focus on no goddamn reparations. They came up with some bullshit. So look, how do we now sidestep reparations? And how do we calm the natives? Let's create legislation that allows them to do everything you all said. Spend money, be galvanized and unified, and show that America is not as fucked up as what we really are. Let's give them a holiday. Now, let me tell you something. I came up with this idea before they started talking about it, but not with Juneteenth. We're gonna propose legislation next year in Louisiana for Emancipation Day. But Emancipation Day is gonna be tied to what?
The 13th Amendment.
13th Amendment.
Right, I never understood why Juneteenth why should it even be a national holiday? It happened in Texas.
Exactly, but this is
not a national event.
But now you're understanding how they go about pacifying us, since Juneteenth is that particular day. And I remember back in the I think it was 1988, 89, Dwayne Wickham, who used to write, a brother who used to write for the USA Today, he wrote an article about exactly what you just said, Tara. And he said, why should Juneteenth be celebrated throughout the country? And he wasn't hating on it, but he referenced that there should be a holiday around, goddamn me, the 13th Amendment.
Right, right.
And Douglas Blackman points this out clearly in the film in the first few minutes of the documentary.
But why celebrate the 13th Amendment when it only gave partial freedom?
Because you gotta now trick the Republicans into, because they're the ones that wrote the language. So you want to trick them into a situation where they start to put money up on a project that we control that gives them the illusion that they did something.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I got you. Okay.
Because they'll put, see, the way we got to deal with this shit, Brother Tamani, is from a guerrilla or a flanking tactic.
Sure.
You being in the military,
yeah.
You know that a superior force, you're not going to deal with them with an offensive or defensive strategy, right?
Not straight up.
You're not going to deal with them on that level.
Right.
You got to come to them either with a flanking maneuver or guerrilla warfare.
That's right.
So this is guerrilla warfare. We go inside of the enemy's camp and we say, hey, this is what you all did. Let's recognize it. Let's put the focus squarely on the Republican Party and not Lincoln, although he represents the Republican Party. And now let's lead the country. And now doing something that ain't never been done before, establishing Emancipation Day squarely around the 13th Amendment. Them crackers are gonna eat it up. And guess what they're gonna do, JT? They're gonna put money up. And guess what we're gonna do, JT? A percentage of the money is gonna be redirected where? Into the Black Gold Nation.
Into our political movement.
Are you all following me?
Mm-hmm.
John and Brian, them like, man, this nigga is like a man.
Oh no, over the top.
Man, he's a mad scientist.
over the freaking top.
Chess moves, baby, chess moves.
Chess moves. We're doing chess moves. So as we move forward in the documentary, one of the big things that the historians talked about is the fact that our ancestors, our big want was independence. The independence to do what the fuck we wanted to do. Where we go to church, where we shopped. So now the question becomes, and we discussed this last week, Jatik and Tara and Tamani cannot answer this question because I gave this answer. But then again, I'm gonna let the ass still participate because I gave this answer the last time we talked dealing with Rosewood. The independence to define ourselves. Going back to Rosewood, do what the fuck we need to do. How many black townships were created between 1864, year before chattel slavery ended, and the year before the Civil War ended, from 1864 to 1954? In those 90 years, how many townships, black townships, were created by our people throughout the entire United States?
I think we said little to none.
No, hell no.
No.
Hell no. Shit no.
Hell no.
Was it like 20 some? Was it like in the 20s?
Hell no.
No.
The 200s?
All y'all getting F's.
I
It was
can't
over.
remember.
It was over 200.
Oh, see, I said, yeah, in the 200s. I just left
Girl,
out the
you
zero.
said 20. You said
Then I said in the 200s.
She just left that zero. No big deal.
I said I upped it to 200s.
I got shit after you got it wrong. But over 200 black townships were created by our ancestors. So think about this. The documentary talk about they wanted our independence in spite of all the shit that they had gone through, in spite of all the shit that they were going through, Our goddamn ancestors still erected over 200 black townships as far northwest as Alaska, as far southwest as California, as far northeast as Maine, and as far southeast as Florida, and all points in between. As a matter of fact, our ancestors in Texas, God damn it, they came up with the greatest African township, and they called it Africa, Texas. God damn. My uncle, let me bring this out right now, maybe, and I'll make sure to. This is another document that I will attach to this. My uncle, if you can see this, his name is Giles D. Moore. This is my great grandfather's brother, and I got receipts for every goddamn thing I tell you. This is my great grandfather's brother, and he migrated from East Texas, Wascom, Texas, to Shreveport. Shreveport sits on the Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas border. But he migrated from Wascom, Texas to Shreveport in the late 1880s. And he had a vision of having a self-contained Black-owned town. And he migrated over there with my other great uncle, Almonte Moore. And they bought up over 1,000 acres of land, and they established a town called Moore's Town. And when he died in 1929, the city of Shreveport bought the property from one of my cousins, my uncle's nephew, and they incorporated it into the city of Shreveport. And today, our municipal airport is housed there, and it is called Mooretown. This is my legacy. Okay, so I'm gangster with this shit. So all of this bullshit that most Negroes get caught up in and wanting to give up and talk about what the fuck they can't do, I don't want to hear that shit.
That's right.
Because our people suffered and still did.
Despite it all.
Created towns.
Yes, sir.
Now, Jati, the answer that you just gave as it relates to how many towns we created between 1864 and 1954, now the question is, how many townships have our punk ass created from 1954 to now? Now, Jati, please respond.
Sorry about that. I jumped the gun. None. Little to none.
Don't let his usage of the word punk ass to give the answer away.
Your answer is now goddamn correct. So, Jatik, how the fuck do we create more with less, but less with goddamn more? Please explain this shit.
Contribute, well, first of all, mobilize a network and use what we have, because we have what we need, and have a centralized location and work out in a hub fashion.
No, what I'm saying is, how did our ancestors create more with less, but from 1954 to today, we create less? I mean, how did they create more with less, and today we create less with more?
Pretty much the same thing we're trying to do. Everybody had a skill, and everybody, was family, and there was just more cohesiveness because they had no choice.
Exactly.
That's it.
They were forced.
Because they had no choice.
They had no choice.
That's it.
That's why I love goddamn Donald Trump. I don't want these niggas to have no goddamn choices. I want these Negroes to be forced into glory. Because when you give a Negro choices and options and shit, it fucks with them.
It makes the wrong one.
because they're too goddamn retarded.
I'd like to take this moment to say the Black Gold Nation does not endorse this Negro's language. We believe in white Jesus and all things good. We're going to pray for this brother.
I know Brian probably like, what kind of goddamn movie review is this? John like, God damn. I'm going to bring the facts and the funk.
That's right, baby. Bring that smoke.
We going to bring the smoke. Because we ain't got time to be playing with these punk-ass Negroes, man.
That's right. We got to move, man.
I had a young person to tell me yesterday, yeah, because in Shreveport, and I'm going to send y'all this shit, a platinum-selling artist, hip-hop artist, Hurricane Chris, hey, baby, Halle Berry. Night before last, he murdered a dude in Shreveport.
Uh-oh.
He gonna do time, life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a thing that I say until Black lives begin to matter to unconscious savage Negroes, they will never matter to any other ethnic group, especially our oppressor.
Yep.
So Negroes, not too many of them, most of them I think are afraid to ever comment, but a few of them have. And it's like, man, white people kill white people. Stop saying that. You're a coon. You're a coon for saying all of this shit. And I said, brother, how stupid can you Negroes be? When you look at the data, and all of this goes back to slavery by another name and chattel slavery. When you look at the data, over 51% of all murder victims in America, listen to me, over 51% of all murder victims in America, and that's combining white, African descendants, Latino, Asian, all of them. Over 51% are African descendants. And of that 51%, 96% or greater each year of those melanated individuals are murdered by other melanated individuals. We represent America's population. White folks, it is true that white folks murder 88% of their own people. That is true. So the number, the population for them is 65, they represent almost 65% of America's population, but 43% of the murder victims in America each year are white. 65% of the population, 43% murder victims white, and 86 to 88% of those murder victims are murdered by other whites. So because our people don't understand statistical analysis, they are being led down a path to try to absolve themselves from their responsibility and accountability in their communities to protect, serve, and uplift and liberate and empower their communities. So now they say, hey man, that you giving out bad information. Everybody kills each other. That's bullshit you talking. You're a coon. But let's look at the numbers. Crackers are the majority, but 43% of the murders are committed against white people, and they commit 86% of them. Third largest group, 13 to 15% behind Hispanics and Latino. How is total murder victims African American? And how is that number of murder victims, 96% are murdered by us? And if you want to really get into this deeper, The answer is right there with the Latino Hispanic community. They're the second largest population in America. But you want to know the percentage of Hispanic Latinos that are murdered in America every year? Anybody care to guess?
It's small.
2.5%. So John, how is it that they're the third largest population in America with a goddamn measly 2.5% murder victim rate?
Great question. Don't know that answer.
And of those 2%, of those 2% that are killed, are they killed by their own or?
Yeah, about 90%. That's always gonna be the case.
Yeah, because you commit crimes against those that are closest to you. So that
exactly.
Crimes, yeah.
Right.
But the culture prevents it.
The culture.
Right.
The culture, Brother John. The culture. See, we've been stripped of culture.
Yep.
We've been stripped of spirituality. And we've been programmed to be savages. We've been programmed to chase the goddamn bag. We've been programmed to do what we gotta do. We've been programmed to say, fuck you and your family, I'ma get mine. And what system has programmed us to do that?
The American
White
system.
supremacy racism.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The same damn system that programs the damn racist cops and the unconscious Negro cops and unconscious Latino cops and the unconscious Asian cops to murder unarmed brothers and sisters. It's the same goddamn system.
That's right.
Slavery by another name. But our ancestors, in spite of all this shit, created over 200 Black townships between 1864 and 1954, and about 30 of them are still in existence. Grambling, Louisiana, Mound Bayou, Mississippi, Bowling, Oklahoma, Muskogee, Oklahoma, Langston, Oklahoma, Chubtown, Georgia. They did in spite of. Mm-hmm. But now Negroes in the late 20th and early 21st century say, oh, the white man, we can't do nothing. You don't understand, Craig. The laws, nigga, the goddamn laws were created to establish slavery by another name, motherfucker. So I don't want to hear no bullshit about no goddamn laws. You got to handle your business in spite of.
Yeah.
Because the crackers are using the savage conduct and their own racist mentality to say, hey, I can sit on a nigga neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Bitch, what you gonna do? Mm-hmm. You don't vote, nigga.
Yeah. You
ain't got no goddamn house, nigga. You ain't got no business, nickel. You ain't on the goddamn judicial bench, nickel. Fuck y'all. And I'ma pose for the camera in front of y'all ass with my hands in my pocket.
That's right.
And then after y'all do all this burning and looting, nigga, I'm gonna keep on killing another nigga, Rashard Brooks in Atlanta. And I'm gonna kick him in his ass.
Yep.
And I'm gonna kick him in his head. I'm gonna kill some more niggas. Now what? Now what? Now I'm gonna kneel with your motherfucking ass. And now I'm gonna say, you know what? Colin Kaepernick is a good dude.
Y'all should give him a job.
Y'all gotta understand how these white folks play this
game.
Oh,
man. Oh, wow.
This game is not played on a one-dimensional level.
Yes, sir.
It's played on a multi-dimensional level. And that's why the Negro can't understand it.
A multi-dimensional level simultaneously.
Exactly, brother. It's done all at the same time.
Yep.
Okay? But our people wanted the independence to define ourselves. That's why my family name on my mother's real father's side is Choice. The slave name was Brown out of Jasper County, Georgia. But my third great grandfather, Peter Brown, God damn it, he said, motherfucker ain't no goddamn slave. And I got the mind to determine who I am. So what's your new name gonna be, Peter Brown? Motherfucking Peter Choice. And we gonna spell it with a Y, god damn it. That's who I be. That's who I be. They wanted the potential of freedom. Now niggas got more freedom than ever, and nigga don't even wanna vote. Nigga don't even wanna go to school. Nigga don't wanna, these are things that our ancestors died for. So I know people say, Craig, you waiting on Trump to send you a slave owner certificate, overseer certificate? Hell yeah. Because I want to put their ass back on the plantation. I'll make their ass eat vegan food every goddamn day. They couldn't have no pork chops. They have to read books from goddamn me sun up to sundown. I'll make their ass plant kale and spinach and goddamn strawberries. Them motherfuckers be ready to kill me the first goddamn night.
Freedom by another name. Revolution by another name.
What you say, Jatique? Jatique, what did you say?
I said you got me over here cracking up.
I ain't lying. Shit. I'll put that punk ass out there, nigga. They'll be ready to overthrow me the first goddamn night. You gotta force a Negro to do what the fuck he's supposed to do. Because I used to think that this period, slavery by another name, you know, I used to think Jim Crow segregation, I used to think that this was the second worst period for our people. No, sir. No, sir. It is the third worst. We're in the second worst right now. Pseudo-integration is the goddamn worst, second worst thing that ever happened to our people. Because you have given slaves, the majority of these Negroes are slaves in their mind. These are slaves. Our ancestors weren't slaves. These Negroes are slaves, for real. Because they don't want no independence to define themselves. They want independence to just say, nigga, I'm gonna come rob John motherfucking ass. John, what do you do? What kind of work do you do, bro, John?
I'm a manager of a tire store right now.
So you're a manager. So now Negro looking at you. Look at that nigga though. That nigga got a nice car. That nigga got a nice house. Let's go hold that nigga up. We got to chase that bag. Now John
got a 38 in his goddamn back.
There you go. What you said? Bro, John, it ain't gonna be no easy mark, huh?
No, hell no. I got a 38 waiting.
Okay. But John, Negroes, this how, like, nigga, where you get this shit from? Oh, I get it. Now labor is now about theft. And that's based on, well, that's what the white man do. Everything with the Negro. That's what the white man do. That's what the white man do. But the cracker has given you this illusion that this is how, nigga, the cracker ain't our standard. We are the fucking standard. We are the original man and woman of the planet, but because we lack spiritual power and cultural power, we are slaves. All of the shit that these crackers did to us from 1555 to 1865 could not break us. All of the shit that these crackers did to us from 1865 to 1964 could not break us. But you got this goddamn Martin Luther King who loved white folks so goddamn much that said, hey, You know, fuck Negro businesses. We need to goddamn go to Woodward. Fuck Negro churches. We got to integrate with white folks. That's how fucked up we are, man. But our people wanted independence and the potential of freedom. The film also gets into talking about the end of the cotton industry. And so that's what put the focus on them needing new revenue, okay? And somebody mentioned the great granddaughter, I think it was John, you mentioned the great granddaughter of B.B. Comer. And I ain't nobody benefited from this shit. You're a goddamn lie. Even if your relatives were not slave owners, what is the brother, oh boy said it best. This is the last point he made. He makes the case, Douglas Blackman makes the case that after slavery, you had over 4 million oppressed Black people in America, all right? Then you also had over 4 million white oppressed. And this is true because white folks are oppressed but for different reasons. Mm-hmm. Because in a capitalistic system, it is predicated on the creation, maintenance, and expansion of a permanent underclass. So look at what the rich cracker did. The rich crackers say, hey, we got to come up with a gangster game, because who had all of the skills during slavery and after slavery?
The slaves, or the people who were enslaved.
Exactly, because they did what?
The work.
The goddamn work. Who you think built the goddamn mansion?
And you know what real quick, Brother Craig, what's interesting about that is like the narrator was saying that during slavery, they had all of these positive things to say about Black people: hard workers, diligent, exactly, committed. But after slavery, them niggas are lazy. They don't want to work. You can't trust them. And it flipped based on the need.
Based on the need of employment.
Yes, sir.
Because now, motherfucker, you got to compete, you cracker motherfuckers. And you can't compete, you punk motherfuckers.
We are a Christian.
He's a bit angry.
We are a Christian organization.
He's just a tad bit angry.
Got motherfucking John believing that he done got his job based on affirmative action. John got his goddamn job because he the best, you punk cracker motherfucker.
We ain't gonna have no new members. We ain't ever gonna be the 6 of us.
This is an angry organization. They're so angry.
Goddamn got John up here questioning his own damn skills and shit. Damn, did I get this? Did I get this job because they like me? Or did I? Hell no, god damn it. You got the job because you the shit. And don't ever be intimidated to tell no cracker that you the shit.
Exactly. Make sure that they know I'm the shit before they even hire me. I come in with an attitude.
Motherfucking goddamn white folks know they ain't never worked a goddamn day in their life. And here our ancestors paved the way. So now the flip, as Tamani just got through talking about, we got to demonize their ass now because shit, that motherfucker got all the skills.
And know how to do.
So now what happens? This is not mentioned in the documentary, but part of the reason, beyond the labor, the direct labor for our ancestors during the convict leasing program, the next part was to now be apprentice. The crackers had to become apprentice, learning how the nigga did what the fuck he did.
Right.
In order to now go create the illusion that they could do the goddamn shit. And so the same cracker, to break the goddamn unionized labor, because they was fucking over the crackers too, they didn't want to get them jobs. They went with the convict leasing program, which created hostility of the dumbass cracker towards who?
Black people.
But not towards who?
White people with the money.
Exactly.
Here come the KKK. You niggas are a problem.
You niggas are a problem.
And we stuck in the middle. Nigga, what?
Do you know how gangster that is? And let me ask you all. And let me see if y'all can get this. All right there, Brother John. Why do you believe, Brother Tamani, that the poor cracker cannot see that?
Because he is more interested in elevating himself above us.
To be like who?
The white boy with the money.
Exactly.
At least I ain't no nigga. But you is, wigger.
That's why when Negroes try to make appeals to poor and dumb ass crackers, it's absolutely retarded, because what they don't understand about the cracker, he desires to be like the cracker that oppresses him.
Yep.
So they not gonna go against, in their mind, they own. But that cracker ain't your own.
Hence their love of Trump.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Hence his base.
Hence their love of Trump.
Right, which he is not connected to, nor does he care about at all.
Absolutely not.
At all. Dave Chappelle said, he looking out for me. Exactly. I got money.
Exactly.
Yes,
so now the ultimate thing is pointed out also by one of the white historians. He points out the fear of revenge. You see, because now black folks are going to start to be on juries. They're going to start to, be able to vote. They're going to start to be able to carry guns. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, revenge. So in a state like Louisiana, and this law was on the books just until 2 years ago, we had a law called the non-unanimous jury verdict throughout the United States, with the exception of Louisiana and Oregon. Everybody else, in order to convict, you had to have 12 people to say he did it or he didn't do it. Okay, and if you want to convict, 12 had to say he did it or she did it. If just one dissented, that dude would get off. Mm-hmm. So how did they do that shit in Louisiana, Oregon? They came up with the non-unanimous jury verdict.
Non-unanimous.
So that means now we got to start to allow, at first, Brother Tamani, before it became the 10-2 non-unanimous jury verdict, it was 9-3. Mm-hmm. So look at how cold the crack is. Federal government, y'all right. We've been doing this shit wrong.
Right.
We're gonna let three Negroes. We're gonna put 3 Negroes on here, and it looks like we're being diverse. Mm-hmm. And we're accommodating for the fact that 3 of them motherfuckers gonna say he didn't do it.
Right.
But guess what? 9 said you did,
and that's enough.
So, that's enough.
That's enough.
Like, we good with that.
And from the outside looking in, it's a diverse jury,
bruh. Yeah. And then look what they didn't do, bruh. Tamani, they say, you know what? This shit wrong. And this gets to the point that Malcolm made about stabbing my ass in the back with a 12-inch knife.
Right.
And then you pull the motherfucker out 6 inches and you talking about you done made progress. Now motherfucker, the knife still in my goddamn back.
Right. That's right.
So now what do? They go from the 9-3 non-unanimous jury verdict to the 10-2. And that shit was on the books until 2018.
Wow.
That shit was on books for 150 motherfucking years.
On purpose.
On purpose. John Legend had to come to Louisiana to help us overturn the goddamn law. That's what made Louisiana the #1 prison state in the world. Now we number 2.
Progress.
And them motherfuckers happy than the motherfucker. We ain't #1 no more.
Who's #1? Is it Texas or California?
No, Oregon.
Oregon. Really?
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why so?
Because of that particular law, it's the percentage. So like we don't have a lot of, we only have like 4 million, almost 5 million people.
Oh, per capita.
Yeah, per capita. Exactly.
Okay. Got it.
Exactly. So Oregon has got the distinction now of having the non-unanimous jury verdict, but they ain't got no, a lot of Negroes up there, so you know that's cool from that standpoint.
But now we got to get ready to wrap it up. Craig, I got to go.
All right, cool. All right, so we're going through the formation of the KKK and other vigilante groups started to come about because of this. Reconstruction period, they get into that. We need to study that. That's the greatest period ever. By 1874, the federal policy changed, and this is how the so-called wonderful Republicans abandoned us in these various state legislatures. So the Dixiecrats came back and took over these deals because, man, people in Louisiana and Texas and Mississippi, they started making shit happen. Mm-hmm. So this is where they came up with the black laws. They came up with the pig laws. They talked about the pig law. Yep. Like, motherfucker, you'll go to jail 5 years for fucking with a pig, stealing a pig. They came up with vagrancy laws. All of this was a part of the black codes. Whites were not arrested. This was absolutely great. The first year that Alabama in 1874 started to use the convict leasing program, they made $14,000. Once they got their test case done, the next year they went up to $100,000. Yeah. The convict leasing program today is called the prison industrial complex. That's why a lot of the businesses have shut down their corporations, and now instead of moving them overseas, they keep them domestic. But a lot of that work is being done where, Brother Tamani?
Right here in America.
Inside the goddamn jail.
Yep. And a lot of our towns in rural America would die out were it not for the local prison.
Exactly.
It's an employment base.
Exactly. So, of course, they focus on Ezekiel Archie. He's the brother who, because he could read and write, he started to craft a lot of the letters. So this became testimony that these individuals looked at. The Comer descendant let it be known that they've benefited from this shit. And she said something very important. She said, they used to say that they were self-made men, but I had to learn that they used the labor, free labor of other people in order to make their millions. The one white, I think it was Douglas Blackburn, who said the system was socially brutal, but fiendishly rational from an economic sense. If it wasn't Blackburn, it was another one of the, it was another white historian. He said the system of convict leasing was socially brutal, but fiendishly rational. And what he's talking about is the fact that they have been benefiting from the free labor all this time. So it made sense that they would come up with another system to actually justify this motherfucker.
Yeah, that statement was kind of like him saying, what you expect him to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another white historian, this was powerful. He said if they, as it relates to Negroes, they cool, but if they don't fulfill their role, to hell with them. We're gonna put them in the goddamn dirt.
That's right. That's right.
Brother John talked about the thing that jumped out of him, the debt game, peonage law. We really need to study that because this shit was based on Mexican peonage laws, and this is still going on now. It's just more cleverly done. And then now you start to understand how all of this works. So when people say voting don't matter, you got the judicial system, you got the sheriff, you got the legislature. Oh, this shit is gangster.
Yeah.
And so the whole the legal system is totally corrupt. And then the Judge Jones federal trials. Theodore Roosevelt, we're gonna do all this, peonage is wrong. So then when they start to find out how wrong this shit really was, the federal judge now only gave these motherfuckers little to no time. And so all this shit is complicit. Then you come up with the chain gangs. The chain gangs was the next state industry sponsored convict leasing, because now, hey, if you need road work done, shit, fuck paying for that shit. We're gonna let the chain gang do it. Of course, majority of them were black.
Yep.
Clyde Williams' trial of peonage in Georgia, that cracker really did go to jail for life, along with the sellout ass nigga who rode with him that murdered the 11 brothers that they had been holding illegally. And when the government came to investigate, they killed him. And a lot of this, and this kind of like starts to talk about how the change from Negroes being loyal to Republicans, it didn't start with, to the Democrats, it didn't start with Kennedy. It started with who? Theodore Roosevelt to some degree. And then it went to his goddamn relative, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This is where the New Deal comes from. And that's when the Negroes get totally tied to the Democratic Party. And that's pretty much has been there since then. And one of the most brilliant points that was brought out is the fact that on December 31st, 1941, this is when the 13th Amendment finally started to get enforcement when Franklin Delano Roosevelt wrote the legislation, signed the legislation that would, in essence, start to outlaw all of these convict leasing programs. And of course, it really never did, because we're still in the prison industrial complex. And the last 2 points, over 800,000 people have been re-enslaved, they said, probably. So if you say 800,000, you can pretty much say 1 million. Over 800,000 to 1 million people were re-enslaved after the passage and ratification of the 13th Amendment, and over 9,000 plus brothers and sisters died during the time frame known as the convict leasing program. We got a lot of work to do, and hopefully you guys will go back, watch this video again, read the book, then read The New Jim Crow, which is the Michelle Alexander book, and anything that you can get your hands on, and start to do your genealogy research with your families, because a lot of these stories are there. Tara, share with them as we close out the story that you found. Brother Tamani, what part of the metro area do y'all live in?
Right now?
Yeah.
We live in Pearland, right outside of Houston.
All right. Tara, tell the story about Sugarland.
Yeah, I was looking up the convict leasing program here in Texas and found out that the first prison that was closed in Texas was the Central Unit that's out in Sugarland, which had originally been a leased convict labor camp known as Imperial Sugar Company State Prison Farm. And so we know that Sugarland is named after Imperial Sugar because that was the main business there. And it goes on to talk about how in 2011, the Central Unit gave the land to the Fort Benton Independent School District for construction of a career and technical center. And during the excavation in 2018, a worker noticed human bones, and the investigation turned up a total of 95 African-American bodies that were buried in plywood coffins. And then they also found like chains, hose, and other artifacts uncovered with the bodies, indicating that they were leased convict laborers.
Yep.
I mean, that's like right down the street.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, a young sister that was raised in the shrine led the effort to get that whole movement underway when they discovered those bones. So yeah, I'm well aware.
Yeah.
It's heavy. Crazy. It's heavy and it's real, and it kind of makes you wonder. You know, like the Devil's Punch Bowl. You know, we, like Brother Craig was saying, we really don't know the full extent, breadth, and depth of what our people have gone through, because we've gone through a lot, and that's something that those of us that are alive in 2020, we really should take pride in the fact that we are here, because if you think about it, the strongest Black people are the ones that survived.
Yep.
And we are their offspring, which makes us a very, very, very strong group of people. And I'm reminded of this white female police officer who's crying in McDonald's drive-thru because she's afraid they're gonna do something to her food. These people have no idea what it means to really struggle. You know, they wouldn't make it a day in our skin. So, you know, everything we need, we already really have. We just don't know it yet.
Exactly. And you know, to see some of these protests and to see the most disrespectful slogan you could come up with, we are not our ancestors.
And that's sad.
To see that, you know, that means that the cracker has done such a great job of selling this narrative.
Yep.
That everybody complied to their oppression. Everybody was scared to stand up. And even those who were afraid had the courage to survive so that your punk ass could be here. And it's like, you don't even, to hear that, it's like you really, it really shows the lack of spirituality and culture while they are believing. That's why they put that in the movie Black Panther, the Killmonger thing. It sounds good. I'd rather die on my motherfucking feet than you know, be a slave on my knees and shit. All this old bullshit. But everybody who says they feel the same way, nigga, you wouldn't be here if your goddamn ancestors didn't survive.
Exactly.
It's like, it's like we just like to really say gangster shit.
Right. And don't even understand what we're saying. Don't even understand what we're saying.
Don't even understand what, and it ain't gangster. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid. You know, because all of the gangsters who the Negroes attempt to emulate, they protect their community. Yeah, they'll extort some of the businesses or whatever, but the premise is to protect the goddamn going around, no goddamn Italians going around killing all the goddamn people in their community unless they are at war with a group. They ain't killing no civilians. Right. But our people, brother, we got so much work to do, but the solution to everything that we got to do is here with the Black Gold movement. It is rooted in what I call the 6 pillars of empowerment: spirituality, culture, education, economics, socioeconomics, and politics. And, you know, I'll just keep on bringing out the movies and documentaries that we need to focus on to help us learn more about what we got to do.
Amen. In closing, anybody have any closing questions or comments for Brother Craig? Anybody at all?
Great job.
Cool, as usual. Good job, brother. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. So with that, you guys have a good day. Always remember 2 things, and no one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And absolutely, always remember that nothing is more sacred than the liberation and salvation of Black people. So with that, you guys have a wonderful weekend. I will hopefully talk to all of you guys tomorrow at our ambassador meeting, and we will go from there. So y'all have a good day. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.
Have a good one.